Have you ever wondered why there are people who don't need to draw attention, and yet, without saying a single word, fill the entire room? Why are there individuals who, without showing anything, without flaunting their achievements, without displaying their lives like a showcase, seem to possess a strange, unsettling magnetism that's almost impossible to ignore? While others scream to be seen, they choose silence. And in that silence, they hide a power that disarms you. Think about it for a second. How many times have you felt like you need to prove, display, convince, almost beg for a place? And yet, they do none of that. They don't chase likes, they don't post every detail of their lives, they don't compete in the marketplace of recognition. And still, your gaze, and everyone else's, ends up on them, as if their apparent indifference revealed something you don't have. An absolute mastery of themselves. Doesn't that scare you? Doesn't it unsettle you to think that true power doesn't lie in the one who speaks the loudest, but in the one who stays silent? That true magnetism doesn't belong to the one who chases approval, but to the one who doesn't need it? Because here comes the uncomfortable truth. Those who don't seek attention know psychological secrets most people ignore. They play a different game, and in that game, you're always one step behind. But don't close this video yet, because what I'm about to show you is exactly what nobody ever told you. How these people think, what their inner world looks like, what psychological mechanisms make them immune to judgment and hunger for recognition. And most importantly, how you can understand that mindset and apply it to your life. Stay until the end, because there you'll find the answers you've been searching for, and you'll discover why those who don't need attention end up having all the power. Most people don't get it. They think living without seeking attention is a kind of weakness, as if it meant being invisible or having nothing to offer. But the truth is completely the opposite. Those who don't seek to shine in front of everyone build the most dangerous kind of strength, the one born from introspection. Because while the rest of the world wastes its energy trying to be seen, they invest it in knowing themselves, refining their character, and studying every detail of the life around them. And that makes them impossible to manipulate. If you think about it, those who beg for attention are slaves to the external world. They depend on glances, comments, constant approval, and every round of applause becomes an invisible chain that binds them tighter to that need. Do you know what that means in psychology? It means they don't have a stable identity. Their self depends on the reflection they receive from others. In contrast, those who don't seek attention develop a brutal kind of independence. They don't need a mirror to exist. And that freedom gives them a calm that feels unbearable to those who live begging for recognition. Here's the unsettling part. These people usually know the true workings of the human mind. They understand how noise confuses, how an excess of words reveals more than it should. That's why they stay quiet. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand that silence is a surgical weapon. Every word they choose to release weighs more than 1,000 random sentences. And that selectiveness is what makes them enigmatic. While everyone else shows too much, they show just enough. And just enough always leaves others hungry. But there's something even deeper. Those who don't need attention develop a kind of inner strength that few ever experience. The strength of not depending. Not depending on applause, validation, or comparison. And here's the fascinating detail. When someone doesn't depend, no one can control them. The boss who tries to manipulate, the partner who wants to dominate, the friend who uses guilt, they all fail. Because manipulation feeds on need. And when someone doesn't have it, they become unconquerable ground. Do you see the irony? The world looks at these people and labels them cold, distant, detached. But what they really hide is a psychological armor that makes them invulnerable. And it's not because they don't feel, it's because they don't give their energy to just anyone. They choose, with surgical precision, where to invest their attention, while others give it away to everyone in exchange for emotional crumbs. They decide when to show up and when to disappear. And that ability to choose is what makes them dangerous. And here lies the key that nobody wants to accept. Those who don't seek attention end up getting it inevitably. Because in a world starving for noise, silence echoes. Louder than any roar, in a space saturated with exhibition, mystery always wins. The person who doesn't compete to be seen, who moves quietly, becomes the enigma everyone wants to solve. And in psychology, the unknown always attracts more than the obvious. Now, I want you to ask yourself something. What would happen if you stopped trying to prove yourself all the time? What would happen if, just for a moment, you let go of that desperate need for approval and simply were? You might discover that the emptiness you feared so much is, in fact, the greatest source of personal power you'll ever have. Because the secret isn't to make more noise, it's to master the art of not needing it. What almost nobody dares to admit is that the absence of the need for attention is tied to a level of self-control that very few achieve. Because to stop seeking attention, you first have to endure the void. You have to face solitude without running from it. And that's exactly where most people fail. In the uncomfortable silence, in the space where there are no stimuli, no comments, no external validation. There, where so many feel naked, these people discover sacred ground, the ability to be enough for themselves. Human beings, by nature, tend to compare, constantly measuring their worth against others, who has more, who shines more, who gets more recognition. And that comparison feeds an endless cycle of frustration and desire. But those who don't need attention have broken that chain. They've understood that comparison is a psychological trap designed to keep us perpetually dissatisfied. They don't compare because they know every comparison is a gift of power. And when you stop comparing, you recover something far greater, the peace of being yourself without needing to compete. Think about it. Society moves like a stage where everyone wants to be the main character at the same time. They shout, they push, they crave the spotlight as if their existence depended on it. But in that chaos, those who choose not to step on stage seem insignificant. Until suddenly, you realize they're the only ones who see the entire play from the outside. They're the observers, the ones who understand the show without getting trapped in it. And that panoramic view gives them an advantage others will never have: the ability to understand the whole game. And here comes the disturbing part. These people don't just understand the game, they know how to manipulate it when they need to. Because those who observe in silence see others' weaknesses. They see their cravings, their insecurities, their desperate gestures for approval. And by seeing them, they learn how to use them. Isn't that unsettling? While some exhaust themselves trying to impress, others accumulate invisible knowledge that lets them move pieces unseen. It's not magic, it's pure psychology. The one who isn't distracted by the need to shine sees clearly what others cannot. This doesn't mean these people live isolated or without ambition. Quite the opposite. They have goals, dreams, and objectives, but they don't parade them as trophies for others to validate. They work in silence, free from public judgment. And here's the most brutal paradox. When they finally reveal something, when they decide to show up, the impact is devastating because no one expected it. Because while others spent months boasting about small steps, they were advancing in the dark, building something that didn't need applause to exist. And the impact is so much greater precisely because no one saw it coming. The funny thing is, deep down, we all know it. What's shouted too loudly loses value. What's shown too much becomes dull. What's always visible eventually bores. But what's kept, what's hidden, what remains silent, always holds an aura of mystery. And in psychology, mystery has an irresistible effect on the mind. It activates curiosity, awakens imagination, forces others to fill in what they can't see. Those who don't need attention play with that fascination effortlessly. They're like invisible magnets. They don't move toward you, yet you can't help but be drawn in. Now ask yourself something uncomfortable. How much of your life have you wasted trying to be seen? How many gestures, how many posts, how many words spoken just to exist in someone else's mind? And above all, what could you have built in that same time if you'd let go of that need? You might not want to admit it, but what keeps you stuck isn't your failures. It's that absurd obsession with proving yourself. The day you stop doing that, you'll start to discover the same power possessed by those who don't need attention. And then, you'll become impossible to ignore. What's truly fascinating is that these people understand something almost everyone forgets: the value of energy. Every word you say, every gesture you make to get attention is a cost. And most people go through life wasting their energy trying to be seen, not realizing they're draining themselves to feed others. Those who don't seek the spotlight, on the other hand, save it. They conserve their strength, concentrate it. They don't waste their voice trying to convince those who don't matter, nor bleed themselves dry trying to impress. And when they decide to act, they do it with an intensity that seems inhuman, because they've stored everything others lost in trivialities. Here comes a chilling concept: strategic invisibility. Not being seen isn't a flaw, it's a move. It's like a predator in the jungle who stays still while the prey relaxes. Silence, discretion, apparent calm, all of it is part of a preparation no one suspects. And that invisibility doesn't mean absence, it means control. True power has always hidden behind curtains, in closed rooms, in mouths that know when to stay quiet. Do you really think the great movements of history began with public screams? Number. They were born in the shadows, in the patience of those who didn't need witnesses. But there's something even more unsettling: the relationship these people have with time. While most are slaves to immediacy, chasing quick results and instant recognition, those who don't need attention play the long game. They don't rush to be noticed today because they understand that true victory lies in enduring when others have already burned out. Hurry is the mark of the weak. Patience is the crown of those who rule. That calm with which they move isn't slowness, it's strategy. And in any psychological game, strategy always beats impulsiveness. Look around you. Every person obsessed with being seen falls into the same pattern. They wear themselves out, contradict themselves, betray themselves. They change masks to please the audience until one day they no longer know who they are. The one who doesn't seek attention never faces that dilemma. They don't need masks because they're not performing for anyone. And that authenticity, though unspoken, is felt. The human mind recognizes coherence without it being announced. That's why these people inspire respect without demanding it, trust without asking for it, and even fear without threatening. Here's a point most prefer to ignore. Attention isn't just a desire, it's a drug. Those who live off it develop tolerance. They need more each time. They crave a bigger applause, a stronger validation. And like any drug, the crash always comes. That feeling of emptiness when the spotlight fades is devastating. Those who don't need attention never fall into that addiction. They never depend on external highs and lows, because their source of satisfaction is internal. While the rest are intoxicated, they remain sober. And in a world of addicted minds, sobriety is the real privilege. Now imagine what it's like to live with someone like that. At first, they might seem cold, distant, inaccessible. But sooner or later, you realize it's not coldness. It's a strange kind of power. The power of not being tied to others' opinions. And that power creates a dangerous mix in those around them. Admiration, curiosity, and in many cases, envy. And now that we've made it this far, before we continue, I want to present the following to you. Our book, The Formula of Awakening, is now available. Do you feel like there's something inside you that wants to awaken, but you don't know where to start? Then I invite you to transform your way of thinking, and with it, your way of living. Discover who you can become. Start today. The link to get the ebook is in the first pinned comment of this video. Grab your copy now at a great price. With that said, let's continue with the video. Because seeing someone free from the chain of approval reminds us, unwillingly, how chained we are. What I'm about to tell you might hurt, but it's necessary. If you disappeared from the map today, the world would keep spinning. No one would stop. No one would be in shock over your absence. That thought terrifies most people, but for these individuals, it's liberating. Because they don't seek to be indispensable to others. They seek to be indispensable to themselves. And there lies the fundamental difference. They don't need the world to validate them, because their existence doesn't depend on being remembered. It depends on living in coherence with themselves. And once you understand that, everything changes. And here we reach the point most fear to face. True greatness never lies in noise, but in the ability to walk alone and stay firm when no one applauds. The psychology of those who don't need attention is an uncomfortable mirror, because it reminds us that all the energy we invest in being seen could be used for something much deeper. Becoming someone solid, someone who doesn't shake with every criticism or inflate with every passing compliment. Think of this as a final revelation. Those who don't need attention aren't invisible. They're untouchable, because the public eye can elevate or destroy you, but it can never trap someone who doesn't play that game. And if you dare to adopt this mindset, you'll discover something powerful. The less you need to be seen, the more power you'll have over yourself. And paradoxically, the more impossible it'll be for others not to notice you. Not because you seek it, but because authenticity always ends up shining without trying. This is the secret few know, and that I've just laid before you. Silence isn't emptiness, it's strategy. Absence isn't. Weakness, it's strength. And being forgotten isn't a threat, it's freedom in disguise. In the end, those who don't crave attention live freer, lighter, more real lives. And that's a luxury very few allow themselves. If this video stirred something inside you, if you now see things from a new angle, subscribe so you don't miss the next topics that will echo even louder in your mind. And leave a comment with a phrase that sums up what you feel right now. I want to read what mark this left on you. And I'll leave you with an idea that might follow you after you close this screen. Remember that the next time someone walks into a room without speaking, without seeking attention, and yet you feel the energy shift, you might have just crossed paths with someone who already understood what you're still discovering. Until then, stay awake.